So if you have been wanting to learn about inner child work, or you've been wanting to learn how you can use inner child healing to enhance your life, your relationships, how you view yourself, and observe your patterns, then this video is for you. Hello beautiful tribe, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Shelly May. I help you expand your consciousness, reclaim your power, and live a life that you truly love. So today's topic is a topic that is one of my favorite healing modalities or perspectives that you can see life through, the lens at which you look at life through your healing, and it is called inner child. Make sure that you hit the like button or you subscribe so I can reach more people and these messages can be heard. It really means a lot to me, so thank you for doing that. So how I found inner child work was years ago when I was living in the basement of my spirit parents, which is a whole another story for another video I will be creating on my spiritual awakening path. I found my spirit parents, and eventually all these things happened. I moved into their basement apartment, and I went through so much healing with them. And there was one day when I was so emotionally drained and so frustrated and realizing so much about my life and how I can be in my power and whatnot, but still feeling like I have all these weeds that I need to clear out. And I was feeling very defeated, and I came upstairs and was telling my spirit dad that, you know, what's happening. And he said, I think it's time to connect with your inner child. And so he, that morning, took me through an inner child meditation. It was super simple. But the way that he guided me, and my intention to truly want to heal, and my intention to being open, is what took me to this point of just breaking down and just bawling. And she showed herself to me as about 8 years old, and she just wanted to be loved, and she just wanted to be enough. And that moment changed my life literally forever, because I felt so much better. Like I had this weight lifted because of these deep emotions that she never got to process, that she never got to be seen and loved in the way that she needed to. And at that time I was carrying in my body as an adult. So I went through that, and that led me to going deeper in inner child work and learning from so many teachers who teach about inner child work, and also intuitively guiding people through inner child work ceremonies. And there would be so much that would come up. And so I'm so excited for you guys to learn more about the inner child and how impactful it can be in your life if you're open. So the inner child, all of us have an inner child within, and it can be seen as the part of your psyche that holds your experiences, your traumas, your childhood memories, different things like that, that all compile into how you view yourself today, how you interpret the world. The inner child literally carries all this information. And if we don't take the time to reflect and connect with our inner child, we're missing a huge opportunity to learn about ourselves and what that looks like, what our beliefs and what the inner child is holding, what that looks like in our life now, in our relationships and our personal dynamics, and how we interpret people's reactions. Because when we are growing up, the inner child is basically like a sponge, and it's the part of you that is taking on all this information in their environment and creating certain beliefs or limitations of this doesn't feel safe to do this. An example like this could be if you were super excited growing up. Naturally, the childlike sense of wonder and excitement and energy of children in its raw natural state is to just be curious and to express and not feel suppressed in that. So if you were singing, standing on the couch or standing on the table singing, and your parent came in and was like, you have to stop, what are you doing, never do that again. Sometimes we internalize that as a child, and we suppress that, and we say to ourselves, it is never ever safe to express myself or to sing or to dance or to be playful Like a lot of times, if a parent is super exhausted and hasn't healed their trauma or doesn't understand how to respond in a loving, compassionate way to a child who is merely expressing themselves, although they might be irritated or annoyed by the child, they could be very reactive, and that can cause the inner child to internalize that as I'm a bad, feel shame about it, or feel like they cannot express themselves. So as I have delved deeper into inner child work over the years, I have realized that this work is so powerful, and I don't think that there's anyone that really is excluded to this work and how much it could impact them, because we've all had a childhood. We've all gone through programming, whether it be through society, through our caregivers, and we've all had different experiences. We can't compare the experiences because your experience was real for you at that time, but we can definitely look at our experiences and see how they shape us today. Now, the beautiful thing about inner child healing is that when you start to uncover, when you start to look at, when you start to kind of dissect or observe and reclaim some of this information from the past around your childhood or what your inner child wants to show you, the beautiful thing is that you can heal. The beautiful thing is that you aren't your trauma. The beautiful thing is that you can change your programming and you can heal your inner child. And what that can look like is so many different ways. Sometimes it's expressing the inner child that allows them to feel free and reclaim your power through play and dance and creativeness. And sometimes it's going into an inner child meditation, meeting that part of you at age 2, 4, 6, 8, and hearing them and being a compassionate, empathetic ear and holding space for them and loving them and giving them the love and giving them the courage that maybe they didn't have at that time. Because at the end of the day, you are the only one who actually knows what it is that you need. And so often we're looking to everyone around us to give us that validation or to give us that information. And what we have to realize when it comes to reclaiming power and becoming more whole is giving ourselves permission and giving ourselves what we need without feeling like we have to wait for other people to save us or to do it for us, right? So my wounded inner child, the wounded inner child is a part of the inner child, obviously, that's carrying the programming still with the trauma or with the adverse experience, and we're reliving that. So there's certain beliefs that I carried and certain things in my programming that I still saw through the lens of the wounded inner child, of not feeling worthy, of not feeling enough, of not feeling like I had a voice or that I mattered or that I could be seen or that it was safe to express myself. And as I started doing my own healing work, I started to realize, wow, this work is literally so powerful. And so I'm going to be taking you guys through a guided meditation that I'll link up here if you're interested in experiencing a specific inner child meditation and inner child healing experience. Now, seeing the world through the lens of the wounded inner child makes you feel very small. Another signal that you're living life through the lens of a wounded inner child is you experience a lot of push-pull dynamics of toxicity in your relationships, of internalizing how people are reacting or responding to you and making yourself feel small, not enough, and you feel suppressed. Another trait of that is going through a lot of relationships and blaming the other person. So that's the thing that's super interesting that I started to realize in my relationship dynamics as I reflected back on going through relationships and breaking up and running away, is that I had this pattern that I just had to face of my wounded inner child didn't feel safe to have conflict because of the way that I was reacted to growing up in my environment, that conflict wasn't safe. So if I had a problem coming up, I couldn't express it. I didn't feel safe to express it because my wounded inner child literally was like, you will die. Because when kids are small and they take on that belief, they literally feel like they will emotionally die if they put themselves on the line like that. So that's just an example for me in my relationships, that I would constantly run away and not face it because it was too scary for me. And so as you look at the parts of your wounded inner child, you'll start to see patterns and how you were treated growing up. How is that response or reaction showing up in your life now as an adult? Because some people say you can't really go back, you can't go into the past, but through meditation and visualization, you can create an experience for yourself where you're nurturing that part of you, and I have found that very healing. So reparenting your inner child is the second step once you've cultivated a connection with your inner child. And don't be surprised if you go to cultivate a connection with your inner child and you have experienced a lot of trauma or a lot of hard childhood adverse experiences to have it not show up. There's certain people in my life that I know that I've guided through, and it took them 2, 3, 4 times of setting the intention of connecting with their inner child and really feeling that and allowing them to know that it's safe for them to come out and to start building a connection with their inner child. It took them multiple times in order for her or him to show up in that meditation or in that ceremony that they were setting. So the second step then is reparenting the inner child. So how do we reparent our inner children, right? It's so important to acknowledge that our patterns, whether it be substance abuse, whether it be our relationship with food, whether it be our relationship with health, whether it be our relationship and how we attach or connect to or bond or communicate with people, all of this is feedback. And so reparenting the inner child could look like setting limits or boundaries, and in a loving way, right? So it's setting limits. Maybe you need to get more sleep, but because your inner child is so rebellious, you think that you carry the belief that you don't need sleep because you need to get all this stuff done, or you don't want to miss out. If you have a fear of missing out as a child, you might not listen to your internal needs, or might not even know how to listen to your internal needs because you've never practiced it. So setting limitations even around food. So educating yourself on what brings health, cutting out sugar, cutting out different things that might be a reactivity to you not wanting to look at what's going on within. So setting limits, setting boundaries with time, setting boundaries with friends, learning how to speak your truth, learning how to say no when you really mean it instead of saying yes and being a people pleaser, which all these things take time and practice, and it can feel really difficult. At the beginning with setting boundaries for me, it was literally like, I was so afraid, like that my inner child literally was like, no way I'm going to tell them no, because then they're going to abandon me, or they're going to, attack me, or all these things, all these fears, right? Because the future doesn't exist that I'm projecting out there that might happen because my inner child experienced different things growing up. And so recognize when that's coming up. Recognize when you're not allowing yourself to set a boundary when you really need it. And I also think that it's very important when reparenting your inner child to cultivate a loving and caring voice. So what that looks like is understanding that how you react to yourself, start to pay attention to that. What's the self-talk? When someone says something to you that triggers you, or when you're about to do something that you would consider brave, getting out of your comfort zone, is your inner critic showing up and shutting you down? And the inner critic is actually developed based off of our experience, once again, growing up. So a lot of the times how you were reacted to, you take that on. And if it's abusive, then you will notice that you literally are abusing yourself, telling yourself that you're not enough, that you're worthless, XYZ. When you look at yourself in the mirror, notice how you're talking to yourself. This is key. And when you notice that, it's not... The point isn't to clear it just by merely saying, I'm going to not talk mean to myself. The point of it is you need something to direct it to. So when you notice that you're being super hard on yourself, or you're beating yourself up, or you're judging yourself, it's not about recognizing that and then being hard on yourself because you're trying to be better. Like, that doesn't help us either, right? So it's super important to, when you recognize the negative self-talk or your inner critic coming in to play, that you notice it and say, aha, I see what you're trying to do here, and I'm going to redirect it to a loving, nurturing voice. So imagine like Mother Mary, or like the cosmic mother, literally, that maybe you didn't have, or the cosmic father that you didn't have, that would be so kind and so compassionate and so nurturing to you. Be that for yourself in that moment. And that's how we start to reparent the inner child. And we're redirecting this negative self-talk. We're redirecting this inner critic, these inner critic beliefs and narratives to something that is compassionate. So an example could be if someone's not texting you back, for example, and you notice that you're getting into this cycle of fear of abandonment because they might be mad at me, or what if they misinterpreted what I say, and and we go to this end, like, you know, fiasco that we create for ourselves, and it doesn't feel good. That's your inner child coming out. That's your inner child saying, I don't feel safe in this moment. But we cannot control other people. We cannot control how they respond or react to us. So all we can control is what we do in response to that emotion or that trigger. So notice what you're telling yourself if this person's not texting you back, and move into a compassionate, understanding voice out of the inner critic and into a compassionate, loving voice that could sound like, I know that I'm safe right now, and that's what matters. Or I know what my intentions are, and if they take it the wrong way, I can't control that. I'm going to let it go. Another nurturing inner critic voice could literally be you going in front of the mirror and telling yourself things that make yourself feel better. That you are beautiful, that you are worthy, that you are enough, that it's okay. And be there for yourself in a way that you maybe never got growing up, that you know you could need right now. And all of this might feel a little bit weird at first. It might feel a little bit like unnatural. And you have to take a step back and realize that you've been practicing this programming that's not really you, that is the wounded inner child your whole life. A lot of people, when they start inner child work, it can seem like they're blaming the person that hurt them, or they're blaming their caregivers, or blaming their teachers, or blaming the people that were supposed to teach them, that they looked up to. And it's not about that. It's about going back. It's about validating your experience and giving yourself an opening to change the narrative, to change the story around how you see what you experienced. And one of the biggest things that I've realized coming into motherhood is being able to view those teachers and caregivers in my life through a different lens, through becoming a parent myself and realizing like how friggin' hard it is and how important it is to heal our trauma, because what you don't heal is passed down to them directly or indirectly, whether it's your inability to have emotional space for them to be on their path, or whether it's you directly projecting your own trauma or your own reaction onto your children. So inner child healing, it doesn't matter if you're a parent now, it doesn't matter if you're an adult now. Inner child healing is for everybody of all ages. And that's just been my experience. And I've held a lot of space for clients over the years with inner child healing and taken them through different inner child healing ceremonies, which I highly invite you to do, which could be your first initiation, could be going through the meditation linked above. So if at any point that you're doing inner child work and you feel like the emotions coming up or the stuff that's coming up is too heavy, that you feel like you might break, I highly encourage you to go to a therapist or someone that is trained in holding that space and helping you guide you through that. You don't have to do this alone. And the lens at which we see inner child healing through, I want you to imagine yourself being a facilitator as the adult now, knowing exactly what it is that your inner child needed at that moment in time, being that for her, for him, for they, is so, so important. So you can draw strength as an adult facilitating this experience of healing for the younger self. It's about understanding that healing is reprogramming yourself and giving yourself new opportunities and new openings to be loved, to give yourself love, to receive love, to set boundaries, to set limitations, and not because you need to suppress yourself or shut yourself down or be perfect. Literally to create more health in your nervous system, to create more health in your body, create more health in your mind and in your heart. And so I hope that you guys got something from this video. I love inner child work. I'm going to be bringing more and more and more information on this because it has literally changed my life forever. And let me know if you got something from this, if you're going to try the meditation, and I'll talk to you guys soon.